On today's Heavenly APO interview late night, we will be talking to one of the leading figures in natural philosophy and scientific mythology, Francis Bacon. Bacon's ambition was not merely to master all knowledge, but to reform it, especially the way by which new knowledge was to be acquired. His elaborate classification of the sciences inspired the 18th century French encyclopedists, and his empiricism inspired the 19th century British philosophers of science. Bacon himself was not a distinguished scientist, but he experimented as he himself was one. His importance is in the way he created what was to become the dominant method of thought. Francis, as a leading figure in natural philosophy and scientific mythology, can you explain the method of inductive reasoning?
Well, in my work called Novum Organum, I explain the inductive method of reasoning for interpretation of nature. My method was to be inductive and experimental, in which specific facts are used to create a theory that explains relationships between the facts and allows predictions of future knowledge, collecting data in important subjects, classifying them, and developing from the wider rules of hypothesis. Take, for example, all observed crows are black, therefore all crows are black.
Interesting. Now we will move on to the next topic, which is empiricism. Francis Bacon, what are your collective thoughts on empiricism, and how did this come about?
Well, in the philosophy of science, empiricism emphasizes those aspects of scientific knowledge that are closely related to evidence, especially as discovered in experiments. It is a fundamental part of the scientific method that all hypotheses and theories must be tested against observations of the natural world, rather than resting solely on priori reasoning, intuition, or revelation. Hence, science is considered to be a methodologically empirical in nature.
Oh, I see. So, some have argued that your contribution of empiricism impacted the scientific method. Do you agree?
Yes, my contribution of empiricist ideals was a great factor into developing the scientific method. However, without the combination of my idea of empiricism and an elite intellectual friend of mine named René Descartes' rationalism, the scientific method wouldn't be complete for the future generations after my period.
Okay, so next question. Why were you so interested in experimenting and analyzing thought, though you yourself were not a profound scientist of your era?
Well, during this time period, other philosophers and scientists were analyzing thought and reason that I too became interested and fascinated in because of the atmosphere I had been surrounded by.
That's so true. Our surroundings do influence us so much. Alright, on to our last question. Mr. Bacon, what is your most revered work and what were its contents?
Well, I believe that one of my greatest books was The Great Instauration. In this book, I tried to come up with a new way to analyze nature. In this book, there is a section that I called The New Organon. Especially in this section, I describe a new method for logic. I emphasize the importance of inductive reasoning rather than syllogism. When using inductive reasoning, it is important to analyze nature and then come up with your conclusion. I believe this is essential when determining a legitimate conclusion to your hypothesis. And these are my beliefs, and thank you for having me.